Hi, everyone. Thanks very much for joining the webinar today, Maximizing Network Insights, Unleash cPacket's Power with Cisco Nexus Data Broker. My name's Ian Kenny from cPacket. I'm sure you've seen me on similar videos, and thank you very much for joining again today. However, I do have a special guest, Alec Chamberlain from Cisco. Alec, thanks for joining, and would you like to introduce yourself, please?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Ian, and thank you for having me. My name is Alec Chamberlain. I've been with Cisco for 8 years now and am a part of the Cisco Validated Framework team, which is what brought Ian and I together, where we have dived in and validated the integration between Cisco Nexus Data Broker and the cPacket solutions.
Great. Thanks, Alec, and thanks very much for joining me and all of us today. Okay. Let's jump in. Why don't you kick us off, Alec, and maybe just talk over the high level of what we've been doing?
Yeah, absolutely. So the three questions that we wanted to answer were the what, the why, and the how between Cisco and cPacket. So the what here is our Cisco Nexus Data Broker, and then the two cPacket solutions, cStor and cClear. Now the why. So in order to actually do packet brokering and then do some analysis on those packets, in the past, this was a very, very difficult task. So scaling this out was extremely complex. It had a high cost. You had another hardware, software to manage. And then once we introduced these latest generation of switches, the 400 and 800 gig switches, this becomes extremely hard to actually set up a capture. I mean, Ian and I were talking before this, the capture NICs just don't exist. I mean, they're just not out there. So in order to ensure that the data that we're getting, a solution like Nexus Data Broker and cPacket is almost required to ensure we're not missing any of that data. And so that's the how, right? It's the actual combination of these two solutions that allow us to ensure we're capturing and then analyzing everything that is captured.
Absolutely, Alec. And I think you've highlighted a really critical point there, and I'm sure folks listening to this webinar really are going to be able to attest to the fact that their networks are getting faster and faster. Maybe if they've been in that network operations or security operations role for a while, they've gone from 10 meg, 100 meg networks, gig, 400, as you say, getting faster and faster. How to be able to handle all of that data, and certainly also the large scale distribution of it through the enterprise is a really interesting piece. Maybe we'll touch on that again as we go through the presentation.
I believe we will. So here we are looking at the actual topology for our Nexus Data Broker. We support 3 different production switch types. So that's an NXOS running just standalone CLI, our Cisco ACI fabrics, or our Cisco Enterprise Networking fabric. So that's something like a DNAC controller or our Catalyst 9000 switches. Now, how we do this is we actually stand up a set of switches that connect to your actual production switches. So essentially, we set up a packet brokering network to actually support this transportation to the NDB controller and then further along down the path to our cPacket solutions. Now, why do we want this? Well, more than likely, you have multiple Nexus switches still in your data center. Some may be used, some may be sitting around. So why not make use of them to actually support your troubleshooting, your packet analysis, and get them easily configured using Nexus Data Broker? So a couple things that we support optical taps, we support spans, we support ER spans. So any method that you would actually capture packets from a switch here, Data Broker and subsequently cPacket actually supports. So there's no interoperability issues, and everything has been packaged in such a manner that it is very simple and straightforward to actually configure. And the reason for that is the Nexus Data Broker is actually automating the configurations of these spans, ER spans on the switches themselves. So you're given essentially a single pane of glass to push the necessary configurations.
That's really great, Alec. And I think you're highlighting a lot of very important points, even on just this relatively straightforward slide. The different ways that customers want to interact with these systems. You say optical taps. I'm a big fan of the optical tap. But obviously, there's a vast range of other options, including span, regular span, different places that you want to be able to monitor, the infrastructure, maybe links that you especially care about, switches, core infrastructure, all of these pieces, get them into the data broker and then distribute them out to tools. Is that something that you've seen, Alec, kind of people deploying things in different ways as you've been around the industry?
Yeah, absolutely. So everybody can skin a cat a different way, right? There's a million ways to actually solve problems. But what Nexus Data Broker and cPacket actually offer you is the most straightforward and making use of what you already have available to you, right? There's no need to actually go out and purchase a whole other system, span that up, and then train or dedicate somebody to actually monitor that new system. Instead, this is everything that you're familiar with, right? You're making use of all the same switches. Everybody has the knowledge and training to actually stand this up if you're operating one of these fabrics, of course.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, let's jump on. I'm sure there's quite a few things you'd like to highlight on this slide, Alec, to kind of help folks understand what we're talking about today.
Absolutely. So I think the most important thing is Nexus Data Broker is a single unit. Today, we're deploying it as a single VM. And what that actually gains you is, one, the ability to just deploy it anywhere. Everybody's got a virtualization cluster somewhere. And then further than that, if you need to expand for scale, you can simply just cluster your multiple VMs together wherever you actually have hardware resources. So expanding your Nexus Data Broker footprint is very straightforward. Anybody can actually do that. Now, coming from TAC and specifically my ACI background, the support for span I think is critical. It was one of my favorite troubleshooting tools, and I can't tell you the amount of cases I've solved, but it was a multitude, and span was the main thing that actually got those cases across the line. So extremely happy to see it supported here.
No, that's,
of course,
that's excellent. Yeah.
Continue.
No, I was going to say that's just really excellent, Alec. It's really we all have those different ways of getting inside the network infrastructure, particularly in these very complex times that we live in. So yeah, span brings a lot of value. It's great.
That it is. And then finally, I think the actual integrations between our controllers are some of our most powerful features, right? This is going to allow us to, in an automated fashion, configure these span sessions for our integration between cPacket and Nexus Data Broker. So we don't need to log into each individual switch, set up the span, set up the span, or log into the GUI and click around in order to configure that. Nexus Data Broker will simply do that for you and push all the necessary configuration, be that to the controller or to the individual switch itself. So in any scenario that you may imagine, Nexus Data Broker has a solution for you.
Fantastic. Okay, I'll just do kind of a brief walkthrough of the kind of cStor, cClear side of this integration. The cStor platform itself is designed around capture. Now, it's a lot more than capture, but the spirit being is it's capture, it's recording, it's indexing all of those packets into the environment. It's able to then go back very quickly and be able to pull out streams or things like that and be able to replay those maybe into a test or dev test kind of environment to look at maybe a good day or a bad day, so to speak, and be able to replay that. And similarly, it's able to do analysis as well, whether that be, kind of security analysis, looking once again at the packet data to be able to enable you to look at SSH or SSL, trying to understand where, what ciphers are being used, all of those kind of levels of analysis. Multicast networks, I think I mentioned them earlier, maybe I'll mention them more later. But the whole point being is it's able to capture all of these packets coming off the Cisco Nexus Data Broker. It's able to index those kind of live, and therefore if you're watching it or if something starts to happen or starts to become a problem, you're able to see it very, very quickly indeed. And as I say, whether it be additional timestamps or tags, other things, you're able to see exactly what's happening inside your infrastructure. And also, you're not going to be deploying one of these. I'm sure if you've got a widely deployed Nexus Data Broker, Nexus switching environment, that's going to be probably quite large scale. So you can actually deploy many of these cStor systems, maybe in one per rack. We have some customers are doing that. We have other ones that are doing end of rack, things like that. Just really depends, but you're able to bring all of those together into a cClear platform, cClear Analytics platform. And this gives you a single pane of glass analytics tool so that you can visualize, you can correlate, you can download possibly captured packets, in your kind of PCAP format to put into your Wireshark platform. We also have integrated Wireshark on the cStors, but sometimes you want to do it on your own system, your own environment. And the cClear allows you to bring all of that together. So you can search. You could search for Alec, for example, and you're able to then find all of the packets in the environment, maybe from Alec's machine or whatever it might be, or the Alec cluster, for example, something like that. You're able to bring all of those back, and you're able to then do that analysis. Because once again, if you've got tens of gigabytes, hundreds of gigabytes worth of packet data, it's extremely hard and extremely time consuming to dig your way through that. And the cClear allows you to be able to abstract that up into that management layer and have all of these cStors, which are being fed from all of those Nexus data brokers. So definitely a lot of exciting things on that. So a quick look at a glance. We've got cStor on the left, cClear on the right, all the way from 10 gig. I know it seems a bit of an older system, but obviously people are still widely deploying that. So you've got 10 gig all the way to 100 gig, and you can then do obviously many of these systems to continue to kind of make that faster and bigger, from 48 terabytes to over 2 petabytes worth of raw capacity. Obviously, then with encryption, with the idea of kind of compressing all of that, built-in compression, so I couldn't get my words out there. The features I mentioned earlier, capture and obviously replay and many other things besides, is a really important aspect that our customers appreciate and are leveraging today. The data encryption at rest, if you have security mandates that you're trying to leverage in your environment, we can encrypt all of that data in hardware. Every disk is encrypted. If someone was able to access those systems, they wouldn't be able to get access to any of that, no doubt, sensitive data. And obviously, full packet capture and indexing. I mentioned this before. Great, very, very important. You may not want the full packet, and that's why you've got a very helpful tool like the Data Broker to be able to maybe slice that or truncate those packets, etc. But the live indexing is vital. So you get the packet, you're able to index it immediately, you know exactly where it is, and you can reach back out and get that packet or get that stream of packets so that you know exactly where it is and what happened and when. I mentioned the integrated Wireshark, and obviously the analytics, the metadata generation is all happening as the packets are being written to the system. So you don't need to go back and regenerate that later. We all know how costly and time inefficient that can be. So let's do it all at the front, and that's exactly what that's what we're doing. So let's look on the right-hand side just for a second, cClear, and then we'll get on to some more diagrams. The idea here is that, the REST API, I think Alec mentioned this at the start, the idea of gluing all of these systems together is really, really important. So having the option to be able to have that API with all of the security requirements, etc., really, really good, really, really useful. And obviously every customer has different dashboard requirements. Maybe you care about multicasts, maybe you care about unicast, maybe you care about performance, maybe you care about this, maybe you care about that. You can have that either from our cookie cutter standard dashboards, or you can create your own, really, really helpful and convenient. We have a hardware appliance or virtual appliance. I know Alex mentioned virtual appliance numerous times. It just depends on how you want to roll this out in your infrastructure, if you have physical space or other options. Metadata collection is important. We continue to pull in more of that as customers want more clarity, exactly what's going on in their environment. And then kind of dovetailing into the REST APIs, you've got those third-party integrations. How can this data be brought into possibly a data lake, or possibly into a different enterprise system that you've deployed as a corporate? You want to be able to feed that with data. That's exactly what this is doing. So it's taking that cClear and it's gluing together all of the cStors, and it's able to make that available to you and to your team.
So Ian, quick question on this slide.
Yes, Alec.
I see, multitude of storage options. Something that I'm asked by a lot of customers, specifically in the financial and health space, is how long can you guys do data retention and data replay for?
That's a fantastic question. And my slightly dodge answer is it depends. I don't mean to dodge that. Obviously, it's a really important question. Actually, we get the same question with a large number of our financial kind of customers. They want to have particular storage times that they've mandated in their environment. So what I would say is this: it's really a conversation. It's understanding what wants to be retained, aka, do you want to retain the whole packet? Do you want to retain just the headers? Do you want to retain just packets of a certain type, for example? It could be that there are certain packets which you're like, well, I don't actually care about that, but I really do care about these ones. So using the filtering that we have available in this integrated solution, you're able to kind of pick out and get that onto the disk. Once you've gone to the large systems, if you want multi-weeks, maybe even 3 months of kind of capture retention so that you really can go back and scroll, I think it's really, as I say, a conversation, work with the solutions engineering team, help define out that architecture for storage, and then you're able to make sure that we can cover you. The key thing is that cPacket does have an option for you if you're coming to us and saying, hey, we need to have this level of retention. We'll show you exactly what has been captured and all of that, so you'll really have a good feeling for what is actually on the disk, etc., so that you're able to understand exactly where we fall. I'm not sure if that is 100% answering your question, Alec, but it certainly is the answer that I would like to give.
No, Ian, please, you nailed that one, knocked it out of the park, honestly. It sounds like cPacket has a solution for whatever our customers' needs may be. Should that be a week, a month, 3 months? It's really a conversation around how long are we trying to store this information, and what information specifically are we looking to capture?
That's exactly right. I think the other point, just to highlight, I think I mentioned it on the previous one, but maybe I didn't. The idea here is that if I have a distributed environment, and maybe, for example, there's a machine or a set of users or other things, or IPs or names of machines that have got some kind of ongoing challenge, and so therefore they could be distributed across an infrastructure, you're easily able, because obviously the data broker has provided the packets, I've stored them, I've indexed them, I know exactly where they are, and then I'm in cClear, I'm able to then go in and say, well, hey, I want to understand that group of machines, or that single machine, or whatever it might be, or a conversation pair, something like that. I can pull all of the data from the individual machines and make it available immediately. You're leaving it on the machines, don't get me wrong, but you're pulling it out from a visualization perspective. And you're able to then understand those groups of machines, or that single machine, so that you really do have a good feel for exactly what's going on. So if you want to know what happened 3 months ago, as your example, I can scroll back and see exactly in that environment what was going on and when. And that can even include things like market data. Once again, talking about your financial experience, my financial experience, it's really, really good. You've got to be able to go back so that you can kind of justify how things played out on a particular day from a particular workstation. So, as I say, lots of options for our customers to explore, Alec.
Excellent. Glad to hear that. Honestly, I mean, that's half the battle, is just making sure that there's something there that meets those needs for our customers.
100%, absolutely. So this diagram, as you can see, is a derivative of the one that we had a few slides back. Talks about the same idea. You can use a broad range of Cisco products to be able to build out this the data broker network there in the center. In terms of the tools, you're going to basically connect those up to the cStors. It's only showing a single cStor. Probably should update this diagram to show quite a few different cStors, but the idea here is that you're able to get all of that packet data, particularly if you've gone up in the direction well above 100 gig, you've got 400 gig, you've got faster machines. You've got to be able to get that down and distribute it across to make sure that you can capture and then access very quickly all of that data, particularly if you're in a compliance function that you're listening to this today, or you're in a NetOps kind of function. You want to make sure that you can fully understand what's happening in that environment. Then, let's say the cClear, as I've mentioned a few times, I won't repeat myself too much, is really about kind of gluing all of these distributed cStors, not just from this cluster that we're showing here, but maybe numerous clusters across a large-scale data center environment. Okay. Let's have a quick blast through these, Alec, together. We'll run through some of the benefits that we're offering the customers today. Do you want to maybe take the first one?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think one of the biggest summaries and points that we want to call out is how simple, cost-effective this multi-terabyte solution actually is for you guys. You have these switches already in your data center. You're familiar with the hardware. You're very familiar with the software. So why not let's make use of them. Let's actually connect them up and gather these different spans or tap sessions to actually monitor and look at the traffic that's being sent through our fabrics. I think it's extremely powerful in that this is all within everybody's wheelhouse, right? Just by simply standing it up and putting one extra switch in a rack, you gain the ability to record what is going through your packet, which is so powerful. I think customers miss out on that fact. Again, I'll bring up my TAC experience. Anytime that I can have a customer set up an span to troubleshoot an issue, I want them to do that, because that is going to show us exactly what is going on. And there's nothing more powerful than, one, having it there when you need it. We were joking about that earlier, of course. Having to send somebody in the data center to actually set up an span is quite the task, and even more difficult here in the 400 and 800 gigabyte age. We can no longer just simply connect up a laptop to these switches. So a solution like Nexus Data Broker is by far the one you need to actually get that done today.
I think that's a really vital point, Alec. And as I say, we were kind of kidding about it earlier. The point is that if customers are unsure, they're unsure about deploying kind of this kind of capture environment, or unsure about deploying Nexus Data Broker, all I can say is that from my experience, it always seems to be 3 a.m. where you really need that deployed. And I kind of say that a little bit tongue-in-cheek, but you know yourselves, folks listening to this presentation, the bottom line is that even in your smoke detector in your house or in your apartment, the bottom line is that never runs out of batteries at 10 a.m. It's always 3 o'clock in the morning or 4 o'clock in the morning, some kind of crazy time that these things go wrong. And we have a lot of customers, and they really want to, they say they kind of have on-demand capture. Well, if you've got on-demand capture, you need to make sure you've got the infrastructure in place, particularly if you've got Nexus switches in your environment that maybe aren't being fully utilized. You can pre-provision a lot of these things, span sessions being one, as Alec just mentioned. But also you can have continuous kind of packet monitoring or packet mirroring, etc. And you're able to kind of bring that down. And once again, it benefits cPacket, but obviously if you've got continuous capture, then you have the data available so that when something goes wrong, once again, 3 o'clock in the morning, clearly it could be 2:59. I totally understand that. But, the whole premise being is that it's always going to be at an unusual time. And you definitely don't want to get that phone call. Hopefully you don't want to get that phone call. It's going to be somebody else on the team. And if the environment's already stood up from a switch perspective and it's ready to go, and you can then easily kind of do that monitoring if you really want to do it on demand, or you can just look at the data because you're doing it in a continuous environment. See, all of this together will really allow you to be able to sleep, hopefully, through that 3 a.m. problem. Because once again, you've already pre-deployed it. It's ready to go. You're leveraging machines. You're able to have the capture appliances in there. It's able to make sure that data is available so that someone on your team is able to go and investigate, whether it's NetOps, SecOps, whatever it might be. You're able to get to that answer quickly so that when you go back in at 9 a.m. the next morning, it's all done. You're not in a panic. And that's really, really important. So sorry, I got a bit on a high horse there, Alec, for a second.
No, Ian, I think it's great. I mean, honestly, you should look at it almost as like an insurance policy, right?
Yeah.
You have this in place no matter what. There's no reason to send anybody to the data center. You're already there set up to capture. Why not knock that out day one, right? Like, we're going to have problems in the network. That's just how it is, guys. But with this solution, now you're prepared to actually troubleshoot it right away from the get-go. You're set up, you're there. We've got captures running, and if we're doing it in a continuous manner, even better. But if it's on demand, great. At least now we don't have to actually send somebody there. You can just simply enable it, and away we go.
Absolutely perfect. Do you want to do the second one as well, Alec?
Yeah, absolutely. So, of course, in the age of AI, we're now upgrading the total amount of bandwidth being sent through any of our Nexus switches. So we've got 400 gig and 800 gigabyte switches. They are pushing close to terabytes and petabytes of data. In order to actually capture anything useful from these switches, we need a solution that supports these kinds of speeds. So why not make use of what you already have, which is Nexus switches? We know they operate at 800 gig. So we use these in order to actually just act as the transport between our capture tools. So that would be our NDB, our spans, our TAP, and then sending it all the way down to our cPacket solution. There's nothing better. Anything else is going to cost far too much money. And again, you'll have another platform to manage. So for me, the Cisco Nexus switches are the best one in the house.
No, that's great. And I think really trying to dovetail into that is the idea of bringing not only these switches, which are clearly going to be helpful, they're obviously part of the ecosystem right now that you are running. Bottom line is we can then help that. We'll bring in that capture. You get the analytics. It'll produce the metadata. We'll get the dashboards. We'll be able to show you that very quickly to get that the value out of the devices extremely quickly. You'll be able to look at how your network is performing. You'll be able to look at just making sure those packets are available. You'll be able to go and do search, etc. So the key thing is we'll be able to help you. cStor and cClear together is really going to be able to deliver on the goals of helping you get the best value out of your existing Cisco Nexus investment. So lastly here, end-to-end tested, verified by Cisco and cPacket. It was a great project working with the team. As I say, it's great and very fortuitous that the offices are relatively close in San Jose. So that works out well, and got it all up and running. And as I say, because it's been verified, you as a Cisco switch customer or a cPacket customer is looking at Cisco switches will be confident in being able to deploy this environment, and it will all work together. And say certainly a very exciting project and opportunity, and certainly thanks to you, Alec, as well as to the team that we worked with, really, really useful and beneficial on both sides. Anything you'd like to wrap up with, Alec?
Nothing other than I think these two solutions go together like peanut butter and jelly, right? We're setting up this capture tool, and then you're providing the actual analysis feature, right? And without them, what do you do with this data? Where do you ship it, right? And cPacket is providing that. What do we do with it? And actually executing and exceeding expectations, in my eyes, for a solution that actually allows us to analyze the data that's being sent from all these Nexus switches. So
I couldn't agree with you more, Alec. The only problem I have is PB&J. As a Scotsman, we were never big PB&J people. So I know that's on me, not on you, but it's
you missed out.
That's a conversation for another day, Alec.
Perhaps.
But thanks for that. Okay, anyway, we've got some materials here. Do you want to talk about this, Alec, just real briefly?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you'd like to learn more about Nexus Data Broker, you can go up here to the Cisco URL or reach out to any of our TMEs at the askndb@cisco.com. And I'll turn it back over to you, Ian.
Yeah, perfect. So, and obviously cpacket.com, we have all of the data on the cStor there. We'll be able to help you out. We also have our LinkedIn profiles here at the bottom. Feel free to reach out to myself or Alec. I know we're both pretty active on LinkedIn. If you've got questions, I'd love to know whether you like spans or ER spans or taps. That'll be kind of fun. Or maybe maybe you can explain to me how I should understand peanut butter and jelly. But the bottom line is, if you've got a question, I know we're going to come on to that in a few minutes, and hopefully you've been putting in questions through the presentation part. But as I say, Alec and I would be very happy to connect, certainly with any customers. We'd love to be able to engage. So thank you very much for that. Right, here we are. We'll jump over to the questions now. So thanks very much for putting them in. I look forward to try and answer them.
Awesome. Thank you, Ian. This has been great.
Okay then, Alec, what questions do we have today?
So looking through the comments, it looks like we have one about how cStor would handle encrypted traffic such as TLS or SSL.
Ah, right. Well, that is an excellent question. Appreciate that being put in. So once again, not trying to dodge the question again. I really seem to be trying to do that. It's really a challenge. So cPacket is not doing any decryption of the actual data. What we usually do is we look at all of the header information that's being transited through, and we're able to help you understand what the handshakes are doing and what the cipher suites are doing, etc., etc. Or you can go exactly the opposite to that, and you can say, well, it's encrypted data, it's an encrypted packet. So what I'm going to do is just chop that. So I'm not going to store any of that encrypted data, and therefore I'm reducing my storage demands. So if you're not interested in all of that kind of that high level information on the encrypted data, but you just rather get rid of it, then that is very easy to do as well. And I'm sure, once again, the Nexus Data Broker can do that, as well as when the packet is received by the cStor itself.
That's correct, Ian. Yeah, we can configure those filters to ensure that that's not captured. So good call out.
Perfect. Oh, here we go. This is a good one for you, Alec. What are some of the typical deployment scenarios? I know we had those little simple pictures, but obviously someone wants to know a little bit more. What would be some of those?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you look at our documentation, there are 3 different deployment models, but today our best practice and the one that we're recommending is what's known as the centralized deployment model. So what this is just simply a virtual machine or an OVA that you can stand up. It is Linux based, or you also have the ability to just download the Linux packages essentially. You'd run a start script, it's just a simple bash script, and Nexus Data Broker is right there, ready to go. So as far as deploying it is very simple. It's something that you guys have done every single day if you play around with VMs. So,
okay, well, that's great. Oh, here's one for me, or maybe for us. Are there more details? Well, we've got some documentation coming. We've got some kind of case study type things, and they're all in the hopper. I'd love to get those rolled out soon. So say I just need a few more minutes at my desk, so that'll be exciting. But if you've got any questions right now, I know we had the contact details up just a slide or so ago in the presentation, or feel free to reach out to myself or Alec via LinkedIn. We'd love to be able to provide you links or things like that to get you up to speed. But certainly very positive so far, and looking forward to getting more things rolled out. I think we might be doing something together at some of the Cisco Lives coming up in 2024, which obviously is right around the corner. So yeah, definitely looking forward to getting all of that up and going.
Same, as am I. Looking forward to seeing you at Cisco Live Europe. It's fast approaching us. So
it is fast approaching. Okay, here we go. This is one I thought we'd kind of answered earlier in the presentation, but anyway, how much storage does the cPacket solution have? Well, I think the way explained it earlier was in terms of raw packet storage, we go all the way from effectively 48 terabytes for kind of quite a small system, all the way up to, on a single box, 576 terabytes. And then if you have the extensible storage, that'll take you all the way out to 2.2 petabytes. So that is great. That allows you to have plenty of storage options. We will be also offering kind of S3 connectivity in the future. So if you want to know more about that, please reach out. But as I say, these are raw storage numbers, and automatically we enable compression. So if your data compresses well, you'll get substantially more than that, etc., etc. So there is a lot of different size options and scale options, which would allow you to deploy something and then to say, oh, I actually need some more. And I think, as we said during the presentation, Alec, the key thing is to actually have a conversation. It's about trying to really stay connected and really understanding the needs of what storage you actually want to have. It could be that I'm saying 2.2 petabytes or whatever, and actually you're saying, well, Ian, I don't really need anywhere near that. I only need 150 gig or or terabytes or something. Something. I aged myself for a second there by saying gigabyte, but 150 terabytes or something like that. So as I say, we've got all of the options to cover you there. And I think that if there's some more questions hiding in there, feel free to reach out. We would love to talk to you. Okay, I think that is all of the questions today. So we've got a QR code here. I say definitely appreciate you joining. It was certainly fun for Alec and I to prepare this and to be involved in this project overall. As I say, I know Alec mentioned it. We're going to be at Cisco Live in Amsterdam in February. If you're based in Europe and you're thinking of attending that event, it's definitely worth it. Not just because you get to meet myself and Alec. That's a bonus. But it is there's a lot of useful content going on there. So please feel free to reach out, and we'd love to talk to you at our respective booths. And obviously LinkedIn, click that follow button. We would love to do that. Anyway, Alec, one last thing. Any last things that we've not shared with our listeners today?
No, I think we really hit the nail on the head on all of our topics here. Just enjoyed this whole process, working with the whole cPacket team, and putting this together has been excellent.
Wonderful. Thanks, Alec. Have a great day, and thanks everyone for listening. Talk soon, I hope.
We'll see you.